The wind carried the scent of dry earth and horses across the wide prairie. In the distance, sunlight stretched over rolling fields, painting them gold. The ranch sat lonely and proud against the horizon, a stretch of land so vast it seemed to swallow the sky. Its master, Baron Alexander Holt, had grown accustomed to the silence. Silence, after all, was the only companion he had left. The men who worked under him respected him but did not know him. They called him the Baron because of his wealth and sternness, but to him it felt more like a title of exile than honor. His home was a mansion-sized ranch house, but its grand halls rang empty. His wife had died years ago, and he had never risked love again. Women had come and gone from the nearby town, smiling at him from behind parasols or offering him sweet bread at Sunday markets, but Alexander's eyes always looked past them. He had forgotten what it felt like to need anyone. Until the day she appeared. Her name was Clara, though he would not know that yet. She came walking down the dusty road with her small daughter at her side. Their clothes were worn, the hems patched in places, and their shoes carried the marks of too many miles. The girl, no older than 6, clutched her mother's hand tightly as though the world might steal her away if she let go. The ranch hands stopped their work for a moment, leaning on their tools, watching the pair approach. It was not often that strangers came this far out. The ranch was half a day's ride from town, and most folks knew the Baron liked his solitude. Alexander himself was standing on the porch, his hat shading his sharp, unreadable eyes. He noticed how the woman's back was straight despite her exhaustion. He noticed, too, how she bent now and then to reassure her daughter with a quiet smile. They reached the steps of the porch, and for a moment silence hung between them, broken only by the creak of the windmill in the distance. "Sir," the woman began softly, her voice steady though her hands trembled, "my name is Clara. I'm looking for work. Cleaning, cooking, anything you might need. I can do it. And I can do it well." The Baron's gaze flicked to the child. She was peeking out from behind her mother's skirts, wide eyes filled with both fear and trust. Alexander felt something shift in his chest, something unfamiliar, almost forgotten. He crossed his arms, his voice deep and cautious. "This isn't a place for strangers. You should know that." "I do," Clara said quickly, as though she had prepared for this rejection. "But I have no one else to turn to. My husband, he passed last winter. I've been taking small jobs in town, but they don't pay enough for us to live. I can work from dawn till dusk if you'll let me. I won't be a burden." The Baron studied her carefully. Years of managing men, cattle, and land had given him an instinct for truth. And he could see it plainly in her eyes. She wasn't lying. She wasn't here to trick him or flatter him. She was here because desperation had left her no choice. Before he could answer, Clara bent down to her daughter's level, smoothing the child's hair back. "It's all right, sweetheart," she whispered, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "We'll be fine. We just need a little kindness." Alexander saw it then, the way her lips lingered in that kiss, the fierce tenderness in her eyes, the way the little girl leaned into her mother as though she were her entire world. And something inside him cracked. For years, he had closed himself off. He had convinced himself that love only brought pain, that family only ended in loss. But watching Clara comfort her daughter awakened a hunger he hadn't known still lived in him. The hunger for warmth. For connection. For something more than empty halls and long nights. He cleared his throat, forcing his voice to remain firm. "Fine. You can stay. There's plenty to clean, and God knows this place could use a woman's touch. But understand me, I don't want trouble. You'll have food and shelter in the workers' quarters. Your pay will be fair. Nothing more, nothing less." Relief washed over Clara's face, softening her tired features into something almost luminous. "Thank you," she whispered, her hand tightening around her daughter's. "Thank you, sir. You won't regret it." But Alexander already feared he might. Not because she would fail him, but because something about her presence, her strength, her gentleness, her child, was already unsettling the fortress he had built around his heart. The weeks slipped into one another, each dawn greeted by the same crimson glow spilling over the horizon, each dusk wrapped in the low hum of cicadas. Yet something had changed in the rhythm of the ranch since Clara and her daughter had come. For the first time in years, Alexander Holt found himself noticing the sound of laughter carried on the wind. It was the child, Lily, Clara's daughter, her giggles drifting through the courtyard as she chased a stray chicken or tugged at the ears of the ranch dogs. The men who worked under him, hardened as they were, couldn't help but smile when she came running past with her hair flying loose. And Clara, she moved through his house as if she had always belonged there. Her presence didn't soften the walls or polish the wood, though she did plenty of that. It softened him. Alexander would come in from a day on horseback, boots heavy with dust, and find her standing by the window, the late sun haloing her face as she wiped the sill clean. Or he would pass the kitchen and hear her humming quietly, the sound pulling him in like a current he couldn't fight. At first, he kept his distance. He told himself she was just a worker, that his interest was nothing more than a man noticing what was new in his home. But each night, when he sat alone in the grand dining hall, the emptiness pressed harder against him. Each night, he found himself wondering if Clara and Lily had eaten well, if they were warm in their quarters. One evening, as he crossed the courtyard, he caught sight of Clara outside by the fire pit, holding Lily in her lap. The child was half asleep, her head tucked beneath her mother's chin. Clara's fingers stroked her daughter's hair with a tenderness so deep it nearly stopped Alexander in his tracks. He remembered another woman then, his wife, long gone to the grave. He remembered the way she used to smile at him in the quiet moments, how her touch had once made this lonely world bearable. His chest tightened painfully. He had buried that part of himself, locked it away. And yet Clara was opening it without even trying. A few days later, Clara found him in the stables, brushing down his horse. She hesitated at the door before stepping inside, her hands clasped in front of her apron. "Mr. Holt," she began softly. He glanced up, his dark eyes unreadable. "Baron. The men call me that. You should too, if you want to fit in." "Baron, then." She gave a faint smile, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "I wanted to thank you. For letting us stay. For giving us work. I don't take your kindness lightly." His hand stilled on the horse's mane. "It wasn't kindness. You offered work, I gave it. Simple as that." Clara tilted her head, studying him in silence for a long moment. "If that's what you want me to believe." Their eyes met, hers warm, his guarded, and the air between them shifted. Alexander turned back to the horse abruptly, unwilling to let her see what flickered behind his gaze. But Clara wasn't blind. She had noticed the way he lingered near when Lily laughed. She had seen the way his eyes softened, even if only for a heartbeat, when he thought no one was watching. As the weeks stretched into months, the small family began to weave themselves into the fabric of the ranch. Lily followed the ranch hands like a shadow, peppering them with questions. Clara filled the house with warmth, fresh bread, neat linens, the faint scent of lavender she kept tucked in her apron pocket. And Alexander, he began to change. Slowly, almost unwillingly. He caught himself speaking more at dinner, asking Clara about her day. He found himself fixing the loose hinge on her door, gruffly muttering that it needed doing, though in truth, he just wanted to make her life easier. One night, during a sudden summer storm, the power went out. Clara and Lily came running into the main house, dripping wet from the dash across the yard. Alexander lit candles, his eyes lingering on the way the firelight touched Clara's damp hair, the way her dress clung to her form. They sat together in the parlor, Lily curled in her mother's lap, fast asleep. The storm raged outside, but within those four walls, Alexander felt something he hadn't felt in years, belonging. "Do you miss him?" he asked suddenly, his voice low. Clara looked down at Lily, then back up at him. "Every day. But life doesn't give us the luxury of stopping, does it? We carry on. For them." She brushed her daughter's cheek tenderly. Alexander swallowed hard. "And what if carrying on feels like a nothing more than waiting to die?" Her eyes softened. "Then maybe you haven't found the reason to live again yet." Silence stretched between them, heavy and fragile. Alexander wanted to say, "You are that reason," but the words caught in his throat. The turning point came one crisp autumn evening. Clara had gone into town for supplies, and Alexander found himself pacing the porch, restless. When the wagon finally returned, he saw her step down, arms full of goods. But another man, a shopkeeper's son, was too close, too familiar, his hand brushing Clara's as he helped her. Something dark flared inside Alexander, sharp and possessive. He had no right to feel it, but he couldn't stop himself. By the time Clara reached the house, he was waiting. "You shouldn't let men in town get that close," he said roughly, surprising even himself. Clara blinked at him. "Excuse me. You heard me. A woman alone. It gives the wrong impression." Her chin lifted, eyes flashing. "And what impression would that be, Baron? That I might actually enjoy a kind word now and then." He stepped closer, his jaw tight. "That you belong to someone. And you don't." The silence that followed was electric. Clara's breath hitched, her eyes locked on his, searching. "And if I wanted to belong?" she whispered. Something inside Alexander snapped. Years of loneliness, years of restraint, crumbled in an instant. His hand came up, rough and trembling, to cup her face. And before he could second-guess himself, his lips found hers. The kiss was fierce, aching, filled with everything he had buried. Clara melted into him, her fingers curling against his chest as though she had been waiting for this as long as he had. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Alexander rested his forehead against hers. "You've undone me, Clara. I swore I'd never feel this way again. But damn it, I can't watch you walk through this house another day without wanting you." Tears shimmered in her eyes, but her smile was radiant. "Then don't just want me. Want us. Me and Lily. We're a package, Baron. You can't have one without the other." His chest ached with a strange, overwhelming joy. He looked at her, at the woman who had asked only for work but had given him back his life instead. "Then stay. Both of you. Stay, and make this place a home again." Clara's answer came not in words, but in the way she kissed him once more, gentle, certain, full of promise. And as the sun sank behind the hills, painting the sky in hues of fire, the lonely Baron realized he was lonely no more. He had found his reason to live again, in the love of a woman who had asked only for work, and in the laughter of a child who had given him back his soul.